Hey YouTube, I know it's been a while since I made a new video, let alone a new bullet journal video. You probably caught on from the title that I plan on redoing my streaming journal, and this is because, as we can all agree, 2020 has been a pretty crazy year. But because of it, I found myself filling out my journal less and less until eventually I just stopped filling it out at all. So I thought a way for me to get back into it, to be able to apply bullet journaling to my streaming journey, was to start up the YouTube content again. So here I am. And I realize it's kind of like halfway through the year. It seems a weird way to kind of like kick off journaling again, but it's better now than never. Yeah, if you happen to catch my previous video of me setting up this bullet journal originally, but you haven't been able to catch me streaming lately or don't follow me on social media, you might find a little bit of an announcement snuck in here. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, suggestions, or have any other advice you can give me, feel free to leave a comment below. Would very much appreciate it. But yeah, let's jump back into things. So here we are, looking back at this journal. I think the last time I've actively used it might be mid to late April, so it's been a little while. So I thought I'd remind myself of like the title page and things like that. Here is my previous attempt at my Mixer logo, but you'll notice that I have a new title page. And boom, purple marker. So if it wasn't obvious enough, I did decide to take my streaming journey over from Mixer onto Twitch. So I realized that I started to color this in, completely forgetting that this notebook does give me a little bit of an issue with ghosting, but I was more worried that it might bleed through to the next page. So you'll see I grabbed myself a nice little piece of paper, put it in between pages so that I don't have to worry about that at all. Also, I do realize that this journal was blue, and it did kind of match the Mixer blue and the marker I was using for that Mixer blue, but you know what? It still works out because blue is my favorite color. But yeah, I figured while I have this footage of me kind of just coloring in this logo, I thought I could go into why I made my change between streaming platforms. My biggest concern with choosing which streaming platform to continue my journey on came down to stability. A lot of the core audience that I explained to them that I was kind of entertaining this idea and what they thought of it. And they were very open and honest with me that while they do enjoy Mixer and what it can offer, their viewing experiences were never consistent, and it made it just very hard for them to be able to enjoy the content, and anybody that was a mod also had trouble being able to mod properly. And as is true with any journey, I found that I've kind of grown and changed the kind of content that I enjoyed making. In the very early days, everything I did and a lot of what I played was very Xbox based. So it was a fantastic option for me to be able to start out streaming directly from my Xbox onto Mixer without needing any additional equipment if I didn't have the means to get it. Although I am taking a majority of my content over from Mixer to Twitch, I'm not fully abandoning Mixer. I'm doing my best to try and support and watch people on both platforms, and I also still stream once a week on Mixer with some friends. If you'd like to, ask me more questions regarding that stuff, feel free to reach me out on my social media or catch me when I'm live streaming. While I was also revamping my title page, I thought it'd be a good idea to also kind of assess some of the previous spreads I had made. One of which that stood out to me was my goal tracking spread. So flipping back to it, I really only had these two goals and a lot of blank space left over, and it just didn't feel like a great spread. So what I decided to do instead was break everything out into the months. I went with the idea of going by individual months because I thought it could be helpful long term to help me show me where I might have creative patterns, where I kind of have, highs and lows. I know last year during December, I basically took the entire month off. Granted, I had, personal stressors that got in the way, but it could be good for me to make sure that I can, check in on myself and not overload myself with planning on, parts of the year that I know I'm going to be overwhelmed by other parts of my life. And now for when I start drawing lots and lots of tiny boxes. And I have to admit, I wasn't sure about investing in a nice ruler, but man, it really was useful in this situation where I'm just, drawing lots of straight lines. I don't have the artistic superpower to be able to draw these straight lines without an aid, but watching some of this footage back, I realized not all my lines are actually perfectly horizontal. They're a little angled, but you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just here for me to be able to have a system where I can come back to and be able to color things in and just keep track of things for myself. As tedious as it looks to draw these straight lines for these tiny boxes, I found it pretty relaxing. Not sure if it's the repetitive nature of it, or maybe because I had lo-fi playing in the background while I was doing this myself. But if I recall correctly, the creator of the bullet journal method does mention that while digital apps are very useful for, helping you plan out your day, sometimes it's extremely nice to have the pen and paper feel and kind of disconnect yourself from everything digitally, which I know I have the issue sometimes in content creation where I'm trying to stay attuned to social media, to keep track of everything that's going on, and to also stay connected with all the people that I made friends with online. As far as the actual goals that I'm keeping track of, I'm keeping them aligned to what I did when I first started this journal. So the top row for each month are how often I plan to stream each of these months. Right now I'm consistently streaming 4 times a week, so that's 16 times in a month. The row below that is how often I plan on uploading to YouTube. What you'll notice is some months have 5 boxes instead of 4 boxes, and that's because I chose to count how many Mondays are in each of those months, so I know how often to upload. Overall, I was comfortable with keeping the rest of the important spreads the way that they were. These sections are like the key, the future log, and my brainstorming pages. So instead of trying to, redo all of those when I was already happy with what I had in the beginning, I decided to jump directly into making a monthly spread for the month of June. What you might notice is I chose to leave a blank page to the left of my monthly spread. I know, especially my personal journal, I tend to do 2-page monthly spreads, but I felt like in the streaming journal, I didn't have enough to fill out for 2 pages for each month to make it worth using up both pages. And another thing that I try to keep in mind is that I do have the goals page on the other side of this page. So as I'm filling in those goals, fingers crossed, they might ghost over and make it hard for me to read this monthly spread again. And I think I might keep this consistent for future months and use that left page for, doing a month in review, just to see, how I feel about the journal, what I could change about the journal, and what I think might be useful in future sections of the journal. Watching this back, I feel like I don't fill out my calendar as you'd expect. I don't know why I picked up this habit, but I do know before, when I would just do it from like day number 1 to whatever the last day of the month was, I would always end up messing up numbers. So this is kind of the trick I did for myself, where I fill out kind of like by week and just work my way through that. I did do a lot of pre-planning for this journal to make sure I kind of knew what I was going with before I started actually taking permanent pen to paper. But I realized there was a couple headers that I wanted to have in my monthly section, but I didn't actually count out the right amount of dots to make sure that the page was in thirds. So I did do a quick reference back to my handy dandy measurements portion of the journal where I counted out how many dots split up the page, and applied that here so that I could have even, section headers for events, to do, and goals for this month. Right here, I was getting ready to work my weekly layout, but then I remembered I wanted to sneak in a second announcement into this video. Myself and D-Pain, if you watch my streams, we do a lot of teamfight tactics and things together, and we also have a podcast together. We teamed up to plan a charity week that we're kicking off that's running from June 6th to June 13th. I do have some further details in a later section of this video. So as I did with my goal spread, I thought it'd be a good idea to go back to my old weekly spreads to see what I was doing before and what I could change for maybe something that I could do better. Before, I was doing what's called rapid logging, and while it was really flexible and really nice, it didn't really offer me the opportunity to be able to reflect on what happened in the last week and for me to carry things over easily into the next week. So I decided what I would do is do a very basic weekly spread, where on the top left, I put in kind of a mini calendar for me to see what part of the month we're in. And then I have a section next to that for last week where I could fill in additional details on, anything I didn't get to, but I would like to get to during this week. And then I broke up the pages to be in 7 equal sections, 1 for each day of the week. The final spread that I wanted to focus in on in this video is a custom spread I made for myself for me to help brainstorm anything related to charity. So that includes the charity I announced earlier that we're running in the week from June 6th to June 13th, but also any future charitable work that I would like to do. So we as a group decided to help fundraise to write Love on Our Arms, to help provide mental health resources. In our research, we found that other funds, such as like bail funds, were being overwhelmed, which is amazing, by donations, but that it would be useful to be able to divert funds in other areas to help support. So this is the organization we decided to go with as a group. So things I'm keeping track of here are like name of organization, dates running, our total team goal, as well as the different kinds of things we'll do for our communities based on reaching certain goals. One thing I'm doing is I'm taking these paper rabbits, I'm putting people's names in them and hanging them up on the wall behind me so that they're displayed to show appreciation for their support. So I will make sure to put the donation link to the campaign in the description of this video. If you'd like to have your name on a rabbit, please put your preferred name in the donation message and I'll make sure to have that hung up. The rest of these goals that I'm jotting down notes for are things that I plan on doing, either live on stream with my community or in Discord with my community, or combining myself and efforts with other content creators so that we can make something together. Again, to thank everyone who's willing to support and help us meet our goals for the fundraiser. I was originally not planning to fill out like this weekly section with my notes, but then I realized I mentioned my stream quite a few times in this video without actually giving you details on when you can find me. All these are in Eastern Standard Time, so Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm live. The only special thing is Fridays I'm on Mixer instead of Twitch, then Saturdays during the day at 3 p.m. I'm live streaming a podcast. So while I don't necessarily live stream any kind of journaling, I'm always open to talk about it, and thank you so much for watching.